Good, af- Good afternoon. My name is Gillian Balaban. I am Governance and Board Liaison at GRI. Welcome to this meeting of the Global Sustainability Standards Board, known by its acronym, the GSSB, being held on 23 April 2026. This virtual meeting is being hosted from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Please note that all public GSSB meetings are being recorded, and you can find the audio recording on the GSSB meeting webpage, along with high-level summaries of previous GSSB meetings. Present from the GRI Secretariat today are Bastien Buck, Chief of Standards, Harold Powell, Director Standards, and Natalia Urbine, Manager Standards. We will now start with a roll call. Anna Nefedova.
Present.
Thank you. Anne Lindsay.
Present.
Charles Chu.
Present.
Chalandra De Silva.
Present.
Deborah Ing.
Present.
Felipe Martinez Rodriguez.
Present.
Felipe?
Present.
Thank you. Galia Tisankova.
Present.
Igazuma Okoroba.
Present.
Isadora Diaz Heredia.
Present.
Jeff Robertson.
Present.
Rebecca Coriatz.
Present.
Tomu Machiba.
Present.
Yang Dong.
Present.
Susanna Muscat-Gorska.
Present.
GSSB Chair Suzanne Stormer.
Present.
Thank you, everyone. I will now hand over to the Chair, Suzanne Stormer, to open the meeting.
I will indeed. And Gillian, will you upload the slides with the agenda?
Yes, I'm just going to do that now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So welcome everyone who is listening to this meeting. Welcome to the GSSB members. And I'm actually not the person to welcome because you've all been here before me. So this is my very first meeting as chair of the GSSB. And I'm really excited about the work that we have ahead. And in this meeting, we also have some really exciting progress to share, for which we have Harold and Natalia speaking on this. But before we get to the exciting part, we have some housekeeping to do. So the first piece is the approval of the draft summary of the most recent GSSB meeting that was held on the 19th of March. So I would like to invite, thank you so much for uploading the slides, to invite you to either approve of the summary or make any remarks you may have. Was that an approval, Rebecca?
Yes.
Great. Okay, motion to approve, and it looks like they're all approved. So thank you for preparing the summary. I think it is a really good capture of the discussion, which I joined, but as you know, as an outside participant at the time. Let's also review the action register we have as of April. And we have a few items. Can you just go back to the previous slide? Thank you so much. So you can see that there's a lot to be completed and a few things to be determined also in terms of timing for us, but overall we are on track. So I think you can now go to the next slide, the final slide on the action register, where you also see that there's a general progress. We have a few items here also to be determined. And what is perhaps of interest to those who are listening in, as well as to the GSSB members, is the narrative and the communications tool on where the reporting landscape sits. I think we've made a lot of progress in that, and we look forward to be able to share that more widely once we've done the final tweaks to that piece of work. So let's move on. We also have provided a submission on the Hong Kong consultation on assurance. Would anyone like to make any remarks on that?
Well, I can maybe jump in quickly here. So this
Yes,
is
please.
the ongoing positioning of GI in the context of assurance, regulatory activity, and we basically take up any occasion where we can, first of all, highlight that we believe that assurance plays a critical role in achieving quality information. And secondly, to also refer strongly to the international standard of the IAASB that has been completed not so long ago and is now available, and it is importantly supporting the impact perspective and can be applied to render assurance over GI-based reports. So in every opportunity, we reiterate those points and hope that regulators contribute to also an international approach to accomplish assurance over what they have regulated locally.
I can certainly say from my own lived critical, in order for impact reporting, sustainability reporting to be considered as credible, as reliable, as consistent, etc., as what we know with financial statements. And if we don't have standards, then assurance providers don't want to touch it. So that whole end of pipe or systems thinking is really important. So the fact that the Hong Kong government is supporting these efforts to have stronger credibility and better disclosure is absolutely commendable. We've seen it in other jurisdictions as well. So great that we are making our voice heard there. And of course, the entire GSSB is also doing that through your work, through your day job, as well as through your role on the GSSB. So thank you for sharing this, Bastian. Okay, let's quickly move on to give a big thank you to Giulia Giannuardi, who is departing as a member of the GSSB. And she has been a very active member, committed a lot of time. We really appreciate that. And we also understand that there is a time for everything. And we trust that we will stay in touch with you, Giulia, in your continued endeavors for quality impact reporting. So we need to have a decision to thank Giulia Giannuardi. Would someone move, please?
Sure, I'll move it forward.
Fun? Great. Thank you so much. And thank you to Giulia. You see lots of applauses and thumbs up. So very well done. Thank you all. Wow. Let's move on. to introduce Isidora Diaz Heredia, who is taking up the vacant seat. And Isidora will be well known to many in the GRI community. Isidora, will you just introduce yourself and show your face?
I think my face is already there. So as a brief
Yes.
introduction, I'm currently the Chief Health and Safety and Sustainability Officer for Parques Reunidos Group, that is an international operator in the laser sector with operations in 9 countries in Europe and also in Australia. And as written there in the slide, I've been an active member of a global reporting initiative from different angles, as a member of the working group of several standards, as a member of the stakeholder council. So I'm really happy to be here, and I hope I will be able to contribute with my experience in multicultural and multi-sector activities to the development of the standards.
We have no doubt you will. Thank you so much, Isidora, for stepping in here and appreciate that. So now let's take it to Natalia and Harold to give us an update on the topic standard project for labor, and for us to review the public comment feedback. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, Susan, and nice to meet you for the first time. Good morning and good afternoon, GSSB members. For me, it's great to speak in with you again. My name is Natalia, Standards Manager, along with my colleagues, Izzy, Madhu, Bianca, Harold, we're working on the labor project. Before I go more in depth with the public comment periods result of one of the labor projects standards, Harold wants to give a short introduction, I think, of the project overall. So, Harold.
Thank you, Natalia. Yeah. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, GSB members, and thank you for everybody who is listening in. Yeah, just to give a small introduction, because we work now for several years based on the approvals of the GSB to revise all the labor-related standards on the labor revision of all labor-related disclosures. So basically, we're working now on 11 standards. First big news is that we went through all the PCP periods, so all the 11 standards and 1 interpretation document to the control of work to GRI 2 went all through the public commenting period. And we are now starting the phase where we go into the approval stage. So basically next month and the month after, or actually next month in June and July, in the GSB meeting of June and July, we have projected to have 4 standards of the phase 1 ready for publication, or actually ready for approval by the GSB, including with the basis of conclusions. And then later in the year, we want to bring forward the non-disclosure, the non-discrimination and equal opportunity standard, and the diversity and inclusion standard. So Natalia will guide us through. What we normally do is give an update of the some general feedback on how the PCP went, what was the distribution of feedback we got, and some early insights of the kind of feedback. And of course, this is not a basis for conclusion, but it's giving some insights to that. So today is really dedicated to only give an overview for the non-discrimination equal opportunity and to the diversity and inclusion. But it's a good, we want to do this, to give this update also because we're getting into the next stage, as I said, of bringing the standards for approval. Then there is also another 6 standards, phase 2 and 3. The last series of supply chain standards like forced labor, child labor, the freedom of association, we all finalized that just recently from the PCP. So these will come also later in the year for, well, I expect actually only early next year. But so today one to Natalia will take you through feedback on the public consultation of the non-discrimination, and equal opportunity and diversity and inclusion standard. Natalia, back to you.
Hello. Yes, exactly what I'm going to do, share a bit of the highlights of these two standards of discrimination and equal opportunity and diversity and inclusion. It's important to note that these are revised standard of the existing GRI 405 and 406. And it was one of the 4 public comment periods that we carried out in the last years in the labor project. Of course, happy to have your questions or feedback or comments during my presentation. Next slide, please. We want to share like the overview of the activities that we held and the global outreach. More or less, we reached out 561 stakeholders through different activities, through different channels. The public comment period was from July 1st to September 15 last year. We have 2 global webinars, both of them like capture and attract like high number of participants from different countries. For instance, the first one, we have participation for 61 countries and the second one 47. So we have like a quite positive representation. We have some regional and local activities, Portuguese and Spanish speaking webinar with the Latam team. Support us to also have this incredible participation, also making possible that to have regional engagement, regional perspectives of these topics. We have also amazing support from individuals. For example, one of the GSSB members, Tomu, organized a Japanese webinar, which helped to engage with around 100 participants. We have the opportunity. We also want to highlight and highly appreciate Thomas and Raylan to organize, translate, and prepare the materials in Japanese. In terms of communications, we had the emails campaign and social media and support by our events and communication teams, a lot of individual feedback, and a lot of individual outreach and follow-up by email to get feedback from our own stakeholder network that we have built in the labor team. And we also have other kind of one-to-one meetings, or for example, with other standard sector organization, for example, GSSB, we receive including a formal letter from them. We have conversations with NGO, consultants, experts in the field. In that way, with all these activities, we were trying to make sure that, to have the possibility that different stakeholders participate. For the survey, for instance, we have to implement an extra action to remind weeks before to the participant who left like the survey, like kind of partially complete. So we also implement a step to reach out individuals from constituencies that left the survey like incomplete. And in addition, we make extra effort when we notice that some constituencies was necessary to have like an extra push for participation. So we make efforts in that direction. For instance, we have good participation for civil society organizations and mediating institutions, think tanks, development organizations. So then we try to focus the one-to-one and engagement with other constituencies. And finally, I can say about activities and outreach is one important engagement, and to mention that my colleague and the project lead Easy Answer organized a side session event presenting and creating awareness of the project during the week of the UN Business and Human Rights Forums in November. This session was 2 months after the public comment period of these 2 standards. However, we think that it was important to mention because she received in person like very positive feedback of the changes of these 2 standards. Then moving on to the next slide, I want to share that this PCP has something in particular about the questionnaire. This is usually normal. We have open question, which is usually like a similar approach for other questionnaires. However, to protect participants and that they feel safe to provide feedback, the survey clearly indicates that their comments will be treated anonymously. We have the GSSB and the DPOC approval of this approach, that the public comment will be treated as confidential by all participants to avoid any potential risks of harm now or maybe in the future to the participant, because we're talking about non-discrimination, equal opportunity, and diversity and inclusion. Then, if all the efforts combined and all the activities bring us to the outcome of 169 comments for one of the standards, non-discrimination and equal opportunity, from 25 participants, and 152 comments on diversity and inclusion with 28 submissions. In the team, we are quite pleased with these results and with the outcomes, and especially the quality of the PCP, even though we knew that we launched the PCP in a year of time where the political environment was not the most favorable for these topics, in particular the USA. However, we believe that, and we also know that these topics have gained significant traction globally in the last years, and many organizations are still and continue implementing initiatives and efforts in these topics. Finally, in this slide, we also want to share with you about the quality of the feedback received. As I said, we were quite satisfied. The submission were really good, because we managed to have participation from different perspectives, constituencies and regions. And for these particular topics of this public comment period, for us matter a lot to have organizations representing, for instance, vulnerable groups or marginalized groups. So we were glad to have comments from this type of organization that actually umbrella of many individuals and regions representing this group, and they provide expert and practical feedback. So and for us, it is very, very much useful. And I can mention examples of civil society organizations from persons with disabilities, social integration, migrants from Asian countries, 3 networks, for example, one from Europe, LGBTQ+ professionals and inclusion in different countries, organizations also that promote inclusion, women empowerment, and gender equality. Next slide, please. This slide with the graphs show the results of the final submissions of the surveys and for both standards, and the breakdown of the constituencies and the regional participation. Then you see the different categories. We receive input from different stakeholders, groups, and from all regions. For example, from the businesses constituencies, we have diverse sectors participating: manufacturing, garment, construction material, building materials, electric power generation, aerospace. So it was quite diverse sectors providing comments, and we have also comments from all the regions. One interesting highlights, we have very positive participation, and it was the largest from companies and participants from Asia. And from the labor point of view, we think it's also a very positive feedback, because it's in these regions also there is a very high concentration of workers. Moving on to the next slide. Now, after the overview of the outreach and the outcomes, I would like to give more insights into the substance of the PCP feedback. So I will present first, next slide, please. First, the no discrimination and equal opportunity comments, so that I can walk you through some of these key themes of the comments. We are at the stage of analyzing the comments, and the idea is to incorporate the changes in the coming months and to present them to our labor technical committee and advisory group members. It's important to mention as well that all the feedback presented today doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be incorporated, because it's the PCP feedback is going to be in final, is going to be in consideration for our team to see how to incorporate and also present this to, as I say, to our technical committee and advisory group. Our analysis show that at least we can say that the PCP is feedback is positive and tend to focus on improving requirements and adding some guidance and precision, but it didn't imply like drastic change or completely changing disclosures or deleting disclosure. It was like positive what people find in the revised standard. I will share some of those. For instance, one of the feedback was to, we already have some elements listed in the no discrimination and equal opportunity policies. They would say NDO as an acronym for no discrimination and equal opportunity. So we have already listed some of the stage of the employment, recruitment, remuneration, and termination. Participants suggest to add also career advancement. So it was kind of an improvement of what we present in the draft. There were also a number of comments about expanding the list of worker characteristics, which can be grounds of potential discrimination in the guidance of the management disclosure, suggestions to add description of measures to recognize and mitigate impacts of domestic violence in the workplace. In that way, be consistent with the ILO recommendation 206. So that is something that we have been considered to add in the guidance. It was received also very positive in all this one-to-one conversation with different organizations and individuals, and as we approach the concept of accessibility, and it is actually covered well in different disclosure across the standard. However, from the perspective of the organization representing persons with disabilities, they suggest that it should also be in the disclosure of no discrimination and equal opportunity policies. In that way, it's kind of present in all the disclosure concepts. So again, it's more related about like precision improvement. Next slide, please. Continue with some of the feedback, discrimination and equal opportunity. We receive a lot of interest to add more examples in the guidance for reporting in terms of intersectional discrimination. In addition, as no discrimination is part of the fundamental rights and principles at work, the PCP feedback welcome the introduction of business relation in the scope of the standard, because it is a new disclosure in the standard. Participant who say this comment said most companies have already implement or have already anti-discriminatory policies also that are extended to their business relationships. However, other participants highlight the importance to clarify the reporting in situation in complex supply chains. And finally, they want more examples of how organization can monitor business relationships in this topic. Next slide. The last one that I have for this topic. Of course, if you have any question, let me know. Maybe I stop for a moment when I finish no discrimination and equal opportunity. So in the topics, management disclosure, the part of the metrics, we have incidents reporting for employees and non-employee workers, and for business relationship. The feedback was that people welcome these two disclosures. Even they were more like creative and welcome and suggest even to add more information to the table that we have in the guidance. So we already covered in the table that organization should report the number of incidents, the type, the action taken. However, we see that other elements could be like welcome to add, as I show in the slide, like time frame, resolution, and so on. The start of this public comment the start of the public comment period of the freedom of association, child labor, and forced labor was the last PCP in the labor project and was 3 months after the one I presented. Therefore, as an internal reflection, we found that it was very good to receive that a stakeholder considered important to align no discrimination and equal opportunity standard with these other fundamental rights and principles at work, and how business relations and their impacts are identified, prioritized, and assessed. So how we align also in terms of the terminology and the approach. So to assure the GSSB members, so we are working with our together with the technical and the editorial team to ensure alignment with all the labor standards in these topics and across all the 11 standards. Maybe I pause for a moment if you have any questions or comments so far before I move on to diversity and inclusion.
Thank you. Yes, Chulendra, you have raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you, Suzanne. Thanks, Natalia and Harold. That's very interesting to see the responses. Something that I was wondering was, when it comes from a regional breakup, would it be of any worth to see how the regional responses have transcended over time, especially on something like labor, because that would be very specific to those regions in terms of the regulations that is there. And secondly, also, would you also want to tell, would it be useful to find out what kind of constituencies predominantly respond on something that is relevant to that topic? For example, do you see a greater percentage of the labor constituency being providing comments to a labor topic? And if not, is that something that we need to be concerned about?
Okay, so for the regional perspective, yes, I think that there are diverse, more participation depending on the topics we have noticed. At least for this topic, non-discrimination and equal opportunity, we notice a large participation in terms of regional point of view from Asia and Europe. So we can also work in the team for the next presentation, maybe to show you if there are maybe for employment or for remuneration or for working parents caregivers, there are different regional interests for these topics. And now about your second question, for instance, for this topic, we notice a lot of interesting from organizations, as I say, from umbrella organizations that represent vulnerable groups or underrepresented social groups. So we more than, for instance, maybe human resources managers and things like that. So it is also different depending on the topic that we launch to public comment let's say the type of organization that participate. Something positive that we have seen across all the PCP that we receive comments from all constituencies that we have, and it's usually complemented by different by our TC members because they also represent international employers. We have one member from the International Employee Organization. We have also 2 members from the International Unions Confederation, and so we managed to have the PCP and our advisory group members that also represent investment institution, mediation institution. So it's a nice complement between the PCP participant and also the expertise that we have in our TC and AG members.
Thank you. Tomo?
Okay. Hi, Natalia. Thank you so much for your presentation, and also I like to see we get more response from Asia than Europe and North America, and that's I look at them more kind of positively in a sense. And my question is I see all comments are quite valid, but same time, and most of the comment is adding more disclosure and rather than limiting. It's maybe it's good, but same time it's like, as Gender asked, and we have to see the balance of the constituency and how they make input, and to make a balance of more disclosure or less disclosure in a sense, and to facilitate and actual reporting.
Yes, for sure. And our TC and AG members are all very conscious of trying to have this like balance, for instance, in reporting burden, because there are these the PCPs that sometimes participants want that we add more and more. So a way to balance and to also appreciate also this important and valid, like also inputs in the PCP. A way, as I say, to balance is to include in the guidance text as a reporting recommendation in that way, or as an optional as well, if we think is going like beyond or what could be like feasible to report. So it is for sure we are going to have this point again in the discussion with the TC of the new iteration of the standards. But you can be like also comfortable that they also are taking all with this into account, like the reporting burden, the feasibility to collect the information. And a way, as I say, to make this is not adding in the disclosure per se as a requirement, but in the guidance as a recommendation.
Harold?
Yeah, so maybe to add, so that is also why in approval of back when we started with the GSSB, that we have a technical committee with a composition with an equal representation from employers, employees, and ILO and basically the global unions versus the so this balance, this is a continuous discussion to keep that balance. But the main purpose of updating these standards, not only these two but the others, is really bring them onto the level of the latest authoritative references. So new insights, new needs, and as we know from the requests from GSB and discussion we always had, it has to be implementable, reasonable, balanced. I think that's also now with these comments coming back, this is typically what we will do. So, and in the advisory group, that's why we created the advisory group with a huge group, and there is a lot of also business representatives in there and advisors who give a lot of also pushback who are needed. So I think the focus is very much on that. It should lead to better insights and transparency on the material information needed from the most significant impact from an organization on, in this case, NDO and DIVE. The question from Shailendra, maybe to come back to, it's interesting, the question how we saw things evolving. So these both standards on non-discrimination and also the one on diversity, they're both always in the high end of reporting. So it's very well reported, probably also because there is an angle to regulation. This is quite different, for instance, for our freedom of association one and collective bargaining is very low. So actually we are much more worried about that. So typically some supply chain aspects kind of thing, workers and business relationship, these are the ones we really see very low reporting, and that's the ones where we want to see, we would like to help with get better information because it's needed. But non-discrimination and diversity and equal opportunity till now, again I say till now, looking at geopolitical discussions, but was always in the top end, very close even to our greenhouse gas emission standards. So it's really in the top end together with occupational health and safety. So it's and we see that throughout the entire reporting landscape, whether it's in Asia, Europe, or US, basically all in the world. Back to Natalia.
Yeah, and maybe just also from my end, certainly to compliment you for this work. I think it looks like a really robust process and as always, but also great insights. Just a question about the anonymous inputs. So this is not likely the last time we will be asking about sensitive matters. So what was the experience with offering this as an opportunity? Is this something that gives better quality insights from stakeholders that we might want to apply in other contexts, or was it an emergency in this context?
I can say we received in the labor team emails where people were like, please, we want to be sure that our comment will be anonymous before submitting the survey. So I think it gives confidence to, at least in the topic and in the climate, in the political climate of this topic, give confidence to participants to submit their feedback. So I think it was just for these two, maybe for, as you say, that other sensitive topics maybe like to be analyzed case by case if it requires this approach.
Thank you. Thank you. So please proceed, Natalia.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Then moving on to diversity and inclusion feedback, there were a good number of calls at the same time, interest to increase reporting accountability on leadership. They say that the disclosure already provides a solid foundation, but it could be strengthened by clarifying in the guidance accountability at senior management and board level, outlining oversight mechanisms, and linking like governance accountability to measurable outcomes. Other comments were in the direction to clarify better the distinction of three terminology that we use in both standards, that is vulnerable groups, underrepresented social groups, marginalized groups. So we are working with our technical and editorial teams to evaluate these requests because those terms are already in the glossary and using other standards. And about data protection, also a good number of comments received to explicitly provide clear guidance for safe data collection for companies, how they can ensure voluntary participation and protecting employees in regions when disclosure may pose a kind of impacts or affect them. Now, moving on to the next slide. We had the question, one of the questions in the PCP questionnaire to know if we need to consider other categories or like an individual categories other than gender, age group, or underrepresented social groups to report the number and the percentage of individuals in governance bodies and employees. We receive a large list of creativity or even individual characteristics, which was something that we expected. However, they were some were more repetitive, for instance, disability status. So we are going to discuss, actually we already have one discussion with the TC, but we need to define what would be the approach if we are going to include an additional category or keep it as suggested in the guidance. We receive also some suggestions to explicitly have indicators of inclusion. We already have some examples. Now the standard also give the flexibility that organization can define these indicators with their workers. And even though the focus of the standard is on employees, we receive comments to that the challenge of reporting action for inclusion for non-employee workers. Next slide. Considering the time, we include two questions based on the GSSB feedback when we present the exposure drafts for the PCP in June last year. One question was related to having one or two standards, because one idea was to have only one that covered all the topics. We want to bring you back the results of the PCP that reflect almost 100% of the responses agreed to keep the approach of two standards as is already in the current GRI. Next slide. So as Harold said, maybe just summarize again what are the next steps with these two standards. So are under revision using all the PCP feedback. I just simply like summarize some of the most relevant and frequent feedback we received. The latest iteration will be under technical review and editorial review in July and August, and we expect to present the final version for approval in October to the GSSB. Next slide. We also thought it's important to give you like all the landscape of the labor project. So essentially, we are focused. We have focused our efforts to finish 6 of the labor standards. Why these 6? Because they are referring the sector standard for financial services and textiles and apparel. So basically, to be able to finalize the sector standard, we need to finalize the 6 labor standards. So there is a dependency between topic and sector standard. So we're going to bring these 6 standards for approval to a GSSB in 3 kind of batches, significant changes on working parents and caregivers to June, unemployment and remuneration and working time to July meeting, and no discrimination and equal opportunity and diversity and inclusion, the one I explained today, to October meeting for your approval also with the textile sector standard. After that, we will continue with finalizing the other 5 standards and the standard interpretation to be finalized and to be presented to the GSSB for approval in 2027. With that, I conclude my presentation. Happy to have maybe extra questions or comments. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalia. I'm conscious of our time, so we likely don't have time for many questions. Thank you so much to you and the entire team that has been involved in this work. So we take note of the milestones that pertain to GSSB and look forward to bringing all of this work to life. But I think what is important to mention also is the mobilization of attention and awareness to these issues as you go through that work is equally important. So I think that really will pave the way very well for a strong adoption. So thank you all, and take it back to the teams for that effort. We are about to close, but I wanted to ask you if there's any other business. I do not have any from my end, and I presume that we have covered what we have to do. So with that, looking forward to our May meeting, and the next meeting is on the 21st of May, where we'll be seeing each other again. And in the meantime, stay courageous and continue to do great work and ask all the right questions, also the thorny ones. So thank you all for attending. It was a great session.